So with us today, we have Super Rare John, also known as John Crane, founder of Super Rare. We got Sarah Sucker, artist. She's also known as The Sarah Show. She's been in the space for a really long time. We got Jake Brookman, who is the founder of
CoinFund.
CoinFund. So I was going to say Coinbase, but I knew that was wrong. Sorry about that. And then also we got Miss Anne-Louise Simpson, who's also an artist and who's also been in the space for a really long time. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Super exciting to have you here and have your insight on the crypto art space.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Together.
So we don't have that much time, unfortunately. It's quite a tight schedule. So let's just jump in straight away. The crypto space has been around for quite some time now, and as I said, you've all been a part of it basically since the start, more or less. What are the characteristics of the crypto art space? Or what were the characteristics of the art space, crypto art space, when it started? Maybe I throw this question out to you, John, as you are the founder of Super Rare.
Yeah, well, I'd say one of the main characteristics is that's still pretty sort of integral to the DNA of everything is experimentation. It's, I think, is a new technology. It's I think we're still figuring out exactly how we're going to be using NFTs. And sort of our internet culture that's evolving. But yeah, that was certainly central and I think is still pretty relevant today.
How was it for joining the space as artists? How do you feel about the characteristics for you guys? Do you think it was different?
Yeah, it was, I joined in early 2019 and what John said about experimentation, that's definitely it, There were so many fewer people, so the stakes were very different. We had, sort of this freedom to be much more experimental in our work. Not that we can't still be experimental in our work, but the conditions are very different when you have way fewer eyes on you. And it really felt like a much smaller, tight-knit community of artists. A lot of the sales that were happening were inter-artist sales even. So, that's a very different sort of way of interacting than it is to be an artist interacting with collectors.
Yeah, I would add also that early on, crypto art was literally art about crypto, right? It was a lot of the works featured, the logos of Ethereum and Bitcoin and trying to educate people about digital assets. And over time, we've seen that expand to crypto art being more than art about crypto. It's also just art that is on a blockchain platform. And so I'm happy to see that people have actually been able to express themselves a little bit more and kind of go beyond that original scope of crypto art. It's now truly a bunch of different art forms, but on this single digital platform for art, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I from my point of view, it felt very underground, very kind of exciting. As Sarah said, there was much fewer collectors. There was a lot of intersales, but it was very kind of small and underground. And I think that's been a big change over the last few months. Obviously we've got it's much bigger now. There's a lot more collectors. But for artists, it was incredible. I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing from getting the minting the first piece and getting the first couple of sales and then seeing the sales grow gradually. It was really organic, and I think it still is. I mean, it's still organically growing, despite obviously the kind of groundswell of celebrity NFTs now. But I think that's probably the main difference for me.
So you already mentioned quite a few notable changes to what it was when it started and to kind of a bit what it is now. Are there any other aspects within crypto art in the community that you feel has really changed since it started?
The artist Matt Kane had a tweet a while ago that really resonated with me, where he described early crypto art as Pangea and that now we're experiencing continental drift. you know, and that's totally it, right? At the beginning, we all kind of knew each other to some extent. We all kind of, you could in one thought contain what this idea of crypto art was and sort of see what it was. And now there are just like all these different continents, right? And like there are people involved in this and becoming involved in this every single day in a way where you're like, wow, I can no longer contain the circle of crypto art. Even that term crypto art, that now a lot of people new to the space would call it NFTs or NFT art, which is another whole point of contention. I think they're interchangeable personally. I think you certainly can make a distinction, and you certainly can tell what era people are from, whether they call it crypto art or NFT art. But my thought on it is, as long as you call it something, it's okay by me.
How do you feel about? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think also it's been interesting too, just to see like, I mean, at first it was like everyone's like in Telegram chat, like posting new things, and now there's like produced videos like dropping next Monday. You're like, wow, this is it's like, so it's just like interesting to kind of see how it's evolved. Like, yeah, it's fascinating.
So do you think those kind of drops, like the advance notice about releases, etc., do you think that's something that's really helping to advance it and to become more, I don't really like this term, but, credible for like the more traditional art world? How do you feel about that, for example? Yeah, John.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like kind of the approach that we've taken is like to really lean into things like the editorial, like just like take deeper dives into like specific art pieces, or like, learn more about who the artists are. I don't know. Like, I think marketing is certainly helpful. So I don't think it's like bad that people are doing like teaser videos. I think it's fun, right? It's exciting. You're like, if I'm not, watching Super Rare every second, I miss a ton of things. So if someone says like, hey, I'm dropping something next week, I like to know. So I don't know that it necessarily makes it more credible, but I think there's just more going on. So there's some kind of need to raise awareness. And so whether you're writing an article or making a teaser video, I think it can be helpful just as a sort of way to break through the noise, since there's just so many more people involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the marketing side is important, because you have to communicate as an artist to potential collectors. At the end of the day, you have to tell them about your art, and you have to tell them maybe about your story, what the art's about. And I think you have to almost treat that almost like a business, even though we're artists and we're mad creatives. From the marketing point of view, you do have to communicate, I think, to collectors. Because ultimately they're kind of collecting your art, but they're collecting, they're kind of buying into you, really, aren't they? So you have to do the job for them and communicate that to them, I think.
Absolutely. I would also love to hear from you, Jack. Jake, sorry. What do you think about this as well? Do you think this kind of marketing strategy is pushing the space forward in terms of reach and such?
Well, I think broadly, the ability for people to sell their artwork on this platform is extremely disruptive, right? There's this like middle market of people who would never dream of making art their sort of livelihood, because they have to go work, right, and make money and support themselves and their families. And I think what this platform opens up is, first of all, like global access to art, and second of all, like this ability to actually create a business model that is sustainable. And so suddenly, where you had a very small percentage of people who could actually monetize their work before, you now have a much larger, you have kind of this smoothing out of this power law curve, and this much larger set of people who can now sustainably work as artists. And in that context, I think you have to kind of it's a very entrepreneurial activity, right? You have to get out there, you have to promote yourself. In the past, the promotion, just like in the music industry, right, has been done for you by kind of galleries, but by the same token, they would take a pound of flesh, right? Namely 50% of your revenue. And what this what this platform enables is the artist to kind of go directly to the people who would become the owners of their art, their collectors, their long-term holders. But the cost of that is going to market. You have to become an entrepreneur. You have to become a brand. You have to get out there. You have to tell people why, this is something worth owning. You have to build those connections. And that's some of the most interesting stuff that has gone on in the crypto art space. And so I'm glad people are experimenting with that.
It's great that you're mentioning this, because it's also one of the questions I have for you guys, because you've been in the space, which I keep on repeating, for a very, very long time, but also thinking about the space for in the future. Are there any specific aspects or roles or routes that you would like to see the space, the art, the space, and the community to go down or take?
I think I'd like to see, we've been doing more like features and exhibitions. And so I think it's fun to kind of see, and just super interesting. Like, I think more of that, like, and also kind of, as things are opening up, like, I think there's a lot of, a big part of art for me was like going to somewhere, being in a different physical space, even if what you're looking at is digital. I think like, physical exhibition, kind of like playing with ideas of the metaverse and physical spaces and, a digital medium. So just more experimentation there, I think.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I know I am very ready for, looking forward to the way in which we're sort of porting this notion of what the art world is to the metaverse, right? And it's happening. We've already sort of broken the seal, so to speak, with like the Christies and the Sotheby's and, all the like pulling of hair and gnashing of teeth in every art journal right now. Like every, I came to this space like as a contemporary fine artist, and the mischief maker in me is like a little delighted by how much everyone's panties are in a bunch over this, because digital art is art, right? Like I for a long time curated digital art, and it was always sort of this translation I had to do, this dance of translation of being like, yes, just because it's on a screen doesn't mean it's not art. It is art. It is fine art. And it's not hyperbole for me to say it has been life-changing to now have the language of fine art and the understanding of fine art applied to my work in its native format, in its screen-based existence. So I'm just looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to how many people from the contemporary fine art world are currently and are in the future going to realize this is happening. You can't close Pandora's box. It has already been opened. Come join us. There's room. We need you. We need more of that language of fine art and of art understanding and, the lens of art history. We want you here. No one is saying you're kept out. There are no gatekeepers here, really. That's the beauty of this space.
Yeah, and Sarah, to your point, blockchain is a bit of a generational technology in every way, right? We're kind of going from analog world to digital world, and people in crypto, they have this awkward position where they have to go to the art people and be like, hey, you know what? Digital art is art. But then like they have to go to the finance people and be like, hey, you know what? Like art assets are assets. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay to pay millions of dollars for art. And it's always like this kind of closing gaps when you're intersecting, technology, finance, art, design, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, sorry, just picking up on the point about the technology. I think we can't lose sight of the fact that blockchain technology, which is enabling all of this, is amazing. This is a paradigm shift. And imagine what's going to happen in the future. We're not even scratching the surface yet. This is life-changing for loads and loads of artists, not just us, but loads of artists from diverse backgrounds, women, minorities, all across the world. So I don't think we've even scratched the surface yet. I think it's mind-blowing where this is going to go. Very exciting.
Just a quick run as well. One word to use the crypto art space. If we start with you, John.
One word. I would say accessible.
Accessible. Sarah.
Delightful.
Jake.
Democratizing.
And you, Anna Louise.
Life-changing.
Amazing. Do we have any questions from the audience yet? If there's any questions for the panel, please let us know. Okay, so continue the discussion. As we all know, there was quite a bit of hype to the space, yeah, the recent months, it was just a bit crazy. There was a lot of noise going around. There was both positive and negative. How do you guys think it affected the community and the art created and the space in general?
To be honest, I'm surprised we didn't get more hype before now, because like I've just said, that this is a whole paradigm shift. It's knocked the whole old art world on the head. You know, it's broken down barriers. It's very accessible, as John said. I'm surprised that we've not had the hype before this, but I truly believe that, you know, NFT artists, crypto artists are going to be huge celebrities. I mean, and so you've got all the celebrities now coming on and minting NFTs themselves. So I think in the future, you're probably going to see fine art, crypto art, and then you'll have music NFTs, celebrity NFTs, and it'll probably kind of segmentize in the future. But I'm surprised we've not had it before now, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I think there's been a wave. I think partially just the numbers got so big that the kind of like the contemporary art crowd started to pay attention. They were just like, you know, people are usually like, what? I can't believe how much someone paid for that painting. That's ridiculous. And then the fine art crowd's like, they paid how much for an MP4? Like, what is this? They're like, we're supposed to do that. And so like, but it's great, right? Like, as Sarah was saying, like, you know, folks who have backgrounds in art history and can add like a colorful lens and like to the discussion. I think it's super exciting. So, you know, like as with all kind of like hype cycles, sure, there's people who are coming in and just, you know, trying to like make a quick buck. But I think more broadly, it's, you know, it kind of exposed a huge new audience to sort of this vibrant community that was, you know, kind of just organically growing. So I think it's been overall a pretty, you know, big positive.
Yeah, I know, you know, I can speak personally, and, you know, I'm aware, I follow all of you guys, so I'm sure I bet you would probably say the same has been true for you, that as sort of like dizzying as the sudden interest in NFTs has been, you know, with like every person I know texting me to be like, hey, this NFT thing, do you know about this, or I know you know about this. What has been exciting for me is seeing how, as someone who's been in the space for 2 years, you know, and in those early days, again, we were all selling our work to each other for like 30, 50 bucks. and then, you know, in 2020, a lot of new people came in the space and they hit the ground running. They entered the space making huge amounts of money. A lot of us that were in there early, our stats from those early days kind of always worked against us, because people would look at our statistics and go, well, her stuff doesn't sell for anything. And it's like, but you don't understand. It was different back then. And what I have experienced is truly this like tidal wave of collector interest in what I do. And this feeling of, you know, what I have been slowly building all this time and just doing the work, building my practice, building what I'm doing here. Suddenly, all at once, this was like the ignition that hit this fire I've been sort of putting together. And it's really exciting, right, to see how, you know, it's not just the people who are new. And I think that's wonderful that people coming in who are these incredible artists are having success so readily, but equally those of us who've been kind of building something here for a while, even as this hype cycle, so to speak, has ebbed and flowed. I think that that's what we're going to find, right? Is the people who come in here and are building this as an organic extension of their art practice and not just coming in to make a quick buck, they will be rewarded, right? That there is an interest in that. And in that way, it's sort of like, you know, if the celebrity news or whatever is upsetting you, that's sort of what I would say to people is like, let people do what they're going to do. It really doesn't mean anything about what you're doing. Do what you do and do it well, and stop comparing yourself to anyone else, because none of us, we are non-fungible. I am not interchangeable with you. You are not interchangeable with me. That's like the beauty of this, right? Is we now have a technology that represents these very special, unique gifts that we are able to give to the world. And it's just great to see it being celebrated.
Yeah, totally agree.
How do you feel about this, Jake?
I agree with everything everybody said. I want to say there's also, just to take a slightly contrarian view here, there's also a lot of focus on art when it comes, and I know this is an art panel, I'm not blind to that fact, but there's a lot of focus on art when we talk about NFTs. I just want to point out that, like, as some people have alluded to, there's also a ton of other digital, kind of content that fits the NFT mold that is also going to be creative, like, for example, design, right? Fonts, icons, maybe like stock photos even, right? And those are all also operating the same technology. They're also operating with creative individuals, and they're also sort of like changing those markets. But those aspects go like underappreciated. And then someone pointed out like music, right? Music is sort of the next NFT type that we've seen on the market. Blog posts, in other words, writing, is something that we've seen in the market. All these are creative endeavors. So it's just exciting to see like people get into those worlds as well, and I think there's a lot of growth to be had there.
So we got a question here from the audience, from Gabriel Tumlos. Can you talk about how you're speaking with artists who are experiencing pushback from the communities regarding environmental concerns? How are you dealing with all the negativity that came during this hype?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think we've tried to sort of like publish our opinion in a couple different blog posts I feel like there's like a bunch of yelling that happens on Twitter, and it's sort of like, I think it's kind of like a nuanced discussion. So we've tried to give people sort of our high level and in-depth opinion on like how these systems actually work. And, no, we don't think there's like this massive gas plume every time you mint an NFT. I think there's been sort of like some misdirected anger. But yeah, I mean, basically just kind of like tried to educate and give people sort of our opinion and talking points on, like where we stand.
I feel like a lot of the views on this out there have been like extremely undereducated, and it's really more about, hype than actual facts or metrics. I'll tell you a quick story. Wearing my investor hat about 10 years ago in 2011, I was looking around in the stock market. What stocks should I buy? And at the time, there was like a lot of hype around solar energy. So I bought a bunch of solar energy stocks. All of them went out of business. They didn't do well. And the irony of this whole thing is that solar is picking up now. And the reason that solar is picking up now is because Elon Musk and Tesla have made it extremely easy to install solar panels, on your house. And so the point I'm trying to make is that there's always like this driving, like kind of force that unexpectedly drives kind of clean energy. Now, I would argue that if you look at like Bitcoin networks, if you look at like proof of work networks is what I mean. Arguably, these networks have done more to encourage clean energy than like any other economic force in the world. And so when we kind of like rag on proof of work, we're sort of doing two things. We're being extremely myopic and like status quo biased around like what is the technology that's out there now, and we're not thinking about how that technology develops over time. And the other thing is that we're not being fact driven, because if you look at the facts, chances are we've installed more solar panels because of Bitcoin than for any other reason, right? And so people, one of the problems here is that we just don't have good data on this, and so it's like hard to make those kind of arguments in a data driven way. But people are pulling that data, and I do think we'll see a lot of improvement in how blockchains operate and how efficiently they use electricity.
And I mean, it's not necessarily for you, Annalise and Sarah, that you might not be onboarding or speaking about this with artists, but how do you feel that how are you speaking about this particular issue, which has been raised several times with a lot of uninformed opinions, etc.? How are you communicating this to your community?
Well, I've been on the radio talking about NFTs, and this came up as I think the third question. And this was a radio show in Scotland, and they didn't know anything about NFTs. So, I think, saying what Jake's touching on, what Jake is saying, we need a lot more research. We need to get the data. But I think there was quite nasty trolling. There was quite a lot of quite nasty hype, and it was on Twitter especially, it was kind of jump on all these artists and add them to nasty lists and so on. And I think, we need to get the data first. But then the thing is, everyone's kind of losing sight of, as I've said before, what the blockchain technology is actually doing and what it's going to do in the future. And yeah, we need the data on the eco side, but blockchain technology is going to change so many people's lives. It's a paradigm shift completely. So I think we've got to take it in terms of the whole of the technology and all of the benefits that technology gives, and look at it as a whole.
Mm. And what about you, Sarah?
Yeah, it's something that I have a lot of artist friends who reach out to me about it, and I have perceived that certainly, women and people of color seem to bear the brunt of this even more so, is my perception, because we're expected to be the bearers of, caring about everything and everyone else, sort of more so, I think, than perhaps male participants in this space. And so, we're all working through it. It's something where you learn to recognize when people are coming to you with questions in good faith versus when they are trolling or when they are seeking to wipe you off the map, essentially, that because what you're doing is so triggering to them, that I do feel that a lot of what this anger that gets directed is violence masquerading as activism, And to that, at first I tried to engage with it and I tried to have reasonable conversations around it. And you quickly come to realize this is not a good faith conversation. This is someone who truly wishes me harm. They're wishing me harm. And I am of no obligation to engage with that. No one is more vested in examining how we can make this technology better and better for the environment and better for everyone than those of us who are engaging with it on a daily basis and pioneering its use. So this assumption that our engagement with this technology somehow means that we endorse the parts of it that are not perfect, I think is a bad faith assumption. So I don't speak about it often, really, because frankly, it does. I would not purport to be the expert on it. I do my own research about it all the time. It is of great concern to me. But I have definitely experienced quite a lot of very, very angry just behavior that I feel is misdirected at me. I make cool art with video cameras and VHS tapes. Like I am not an expert on climate change. I'm deeply concerned about it. But just as everyone here has said, it's sort of something we're all figuring out together. And to be myopic and to shut down what we're doing here in service of this very tunnel vision kind of view of it just seems like it would be a great disservice to humanity.
Totally. So to end this panel on a slightly lighter note than that, a famous person who's not yet in the crypto space, who's not creating an NFT that you would love to see joining one of the platforms and releasing either their own or a collaboration like Paris Hilton and Blake Catherine. Starting with John again, sorry about that, but you are right after my image, so I'm going that order.
Yeah, you're really putting me on the spot here. Let's see.
Or, I mean, by all means, if there's someone else who's already have that celebrity on their mind, please go ahead.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I would love my favorite DJ, Solomon. So I make a lot of my art to house music, but I make a lot of my art to Solomon, and I absolutely love his mixes. So he would be, and you know, if Solomon's watching and he wants to collaborate with me, absolutely, let's do it. But he would be my first choice.
I think for me, it's like any like digital creator that's like purely digital and has struggled with, you know, sort of finding where their work lives. You know, the thing about like digital art is like, where is it? Is it in your phone? Is it on your computer? Is it in the email where you send it to someone? How do we find it? And I think the blockchain allows us to find it. And so for that reason, I think pure digital media is a great fit with blockchain. Anyone who's not on it should be on it.
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback on what Jake said. Like the whole idea was to help artists who weren't participating in sort of like contemporary art economics, right? There are a lot of people who are creating incredible digital art and just didn't really have, you know, like had massive followings or maybe small followings, but still it didn't really find their right audience. And so I think, you know, we're out here trying to build the tools for all of those folks and individuals. So enjoy the party.
And Sarah, do you have someone?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like what everyone said of like celebrities don't need our help or our endorsement. So they kind of already have their thing going. So, I mean, yeah, you know, I've been preaching the virtues of NFTs for 2 years. I used to curate a visual music event called Prism Pipe here in Los Angeles. And I would love to see every artist that I curated back then get into this. All these screen-based artists, people I know from Instagram, from Giphy, you know, finally from Tumblr. There's been this incredible, you know, surge of all these people I knew from Tumblr 10 years ago who were making GIFs on Tumblr, now getting into NFTs. So that's what I want to see more of, right? People who have like really made this their life's work to make digital screen-based art, now having a way of meaningfully editioning it, because the celebrities will be fine. They don't need our help.
They'll survive anyway. Thank you so much for that, guys. Really interesting, some great food for thought. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jake. And thank you, Annalise. I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. And yeah, thank you.